Well, thanks so much for watching Speaking of Founders Mission. I'm Stephanie Fields, and today I am happy to have Corey Towe, who is a leadership entrepreneur. So thank you so much for being here, Corey.
Yeah, awesome. Excited to be here, Stephanie.
So I'm just going to start with what you're dealing with right now. You worked at a tech company, the same one that I did, and we were both laid off. I was laid off in an earlier round related to COVID, and then you were laid off very recently in another round related to COVID and restructuring. So it's impressive to me because I follow you on LinkedIn and you're always posting the most motivating things to people and being so transparent with what it's like to deal with. So tell me, why was it important for you to share your story and try to get that out to other people?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One is sharing my story helps me. And so it helps me to remind myself that at the end of the day, I control my frame, right? At the end of the day, the story that I believe about my circumstances can be shaped by me. So I could choose to, throw a pity party, be negative, be a victim of my circumstances, or I could choose to frame it up differently and to use it as an opportunity to launch me into what's next. And so part of the sharing the story is like therapeutic for me, right? I get to get it out in a creative way and be able to share it that way. But the other piece is that I know that our experience is something that a lot of people in this country are experiencing now. And I see it every day. I see it every day on LinkedIn where there's posts of people who are out of work, looking for a new job. With the pandemic impacting business, there's all these aspects that are impacting people. And if I can help inspire them in a small way and remind them that they can choose to view this in a certain way, in a positive way, then I want to be able to do that as well. And so dropping posts on LinkedIn, I know people are there looking for jobs, and if they come across a post and it inspires them and encourages them to keep moving forward, then that's a win for me.
You certainly inspire people. Every one of your posts manages to get tons of interaction. You ask super thoughtful questions. Why do you like to help people think about it? Your posts always have a really amazing story, and then they always have some kind of thought-provoking question. What are the questions that you have on your mind, and why are they important to share?
Yeah, I'm trying to create a conversation. I'm not trying to just drop content. It's how do we create a connection with people? And it's not just with me, it's with other people, seeing that there's a power in numbers, right? That we are not alone in whatever it is that we're experiencing. It could be a layoff experience, or it could be, hey, I'm a people leader in an organization and I'm just struggling every day to show up feeling like I have what it takes to be successful. And so how can I create a conversation and inspire them to connect further? And using a platform like a LinkedIn or whatever, there's other platforms too, it helps create that connection with people so that we do get practical tips and inspiration, but we also have the ability to connect and know we're not alone in whatever it is that we're trying to tackle.
I think that says a lot about the type of team that you foster, because at the tech company that you worked at, you were a leader and you've had some leadership development classes, and that's clearly a passion of yours. And you have so many people on your team who would go to bat for you because they loved how you supported them. And I think it's rare to see a leader who cares that much about the personal development outside of work even.
I think to take a step back before I answer that is that why would I do that, right? And I think it's a fundamental belief that I believe that it's not just the right thing to do. I believe it's the right business strategy. I believe that if you equip your leaders, if you have engaged people, that ultimately is going to accelerate whatever it is you're trying to accomplish as a business. And if you're missing one of those, think of it as an equation. If you're missing one of those, if you have unequipped leaders or disengaged leaders and you have disengaged associates, it really slows down what you're trying to do as a business and the value you're trying to create in the world that you want to create it in. And so it's a leadership strategy. It really is. And so, and what motivates me is that I believe every single person deserves to have a great leader. I just believe that. And I believe that every leader deserves to be equipped and positioned to be great as well. And so I just take that approach with my teams, is that the people on the team at the end of the day are the ones who grow the business. It's the people that grow the business. And if you don't have engaged people, growing a business is going to be so much more difficult to do. And so I just choose to invest in that. And so whenever I talk to, it's funny because when I think about, like, I think often about what my kids teach me about leadership. I have 3 kids, and I remember helping my daughter who's 10 with math, and she's learning the order of operations. I don't know if you remember like the order of operations.
I don't remember anything about math.
But it's like, it's the formula, right? Of, okay, if you have like, this math equation that has addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, all in one equation, which one do you do first, right? And there's a formula for what you do and how you work ultimately through that problem to get the end result. And so when I think about leadership, there's an order of operations in my mind of the order that things need to go in to ultimately get the result that you want. And it starts with making sure that I'm healthy as a leader, because if I'm passed out as a leader, then I'm going to be ineffective. And then it gets to developing your team. And when we develop our team together, as the team's growing, we're able to accelerate our business results. A lot of organizational leaders start with the business results. It's right. Let's just deliver business results. 99% of our conversations are about your results. And they bypass developing people, and even they bypass making sure that they're growing as a leader themselves. And so I just take that approach. When I think about leading teams, it's okay, I want to make sure that I'm growing. I want to make sure my team's developed, and then we're going to deliver results because we're part of a team that's part of a business. But the develop my team piece is critical, just because I believe that at the end of the day, it's the people. And if the people are engaged, growing, clear, they work in a safe environment where there's trust, those types of things, there's no telling, and there's no limits to what we can do together when it comes to actually doing whatever it is. If it's writing software code, if it's dealing with customers or managing customers, implementing software, project management, driving the culture, doing learning and development, all these things, no matter what we're doing, if we're growing and we're engaged, we can accelerate the value of what we're creating as a team.
Why do you think so many high-level leaders don't understand that? You'd think that in theory, they've spent potentially decades getting to the roles that they are. How does that get lost? Because I know data is the hot thing, and everybody says, data, 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 data. But it's like they don't look at the data about people. You have to be able to motivate the people, because you're so right. The people are what drive the business. And you've used the example of Chick-fil-A before when you and I talked separately. And it's true. Chick-fil-A has amazing people, and they treat their people kindly, and their people over deliver.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Chick-fil-A thing, just to share with the audience here, is how they intentionally decided between two things. They could use their people to grow their business, or they could use their business to grow their people. And they chose the latter. They chose to be intentional about, hey, we're going to use our business to grow our people. And at the end of the day, that accelerated the growth of their business. So it kind of all comes together. It's interesting, because I think about that a lot. It's like, how do people continue to rise in leadership, but yet, to be honest, they're not very good leaders. They may have authority, they may have a title, but they're not really leading their team. The people don't follow them because they want to follow them. They follow them because they have to, right? Because they're the boss. And I think a couple of things come to mind. One is that I feel, this is what I call the sophistication bias with leaders, is I feel that a lot of times we complicate what leadership is. And we think that the solution to my problem I'm trying to face, it's got to be sophisticated. There has to be this sophisticated, complex solution to this problem I'm experiencing in my organization. But the reality is that it's the simple stuff that has the biggest impact. And simple doesn't mean it's easy to do, but it just means it's simple. And so, like, for example, let me give you an example, is I will tell leaders often that the most powerful tool that a leader has in their toolbox is their one-on-one meeting. And they're like, a meeting? How can a meeting be the most powerful tool? And it's like, let me tell you how it's the most powerful tool. And we talk about how the one-on-one meeting is the place where you drive clarity, you cultivate trust, you create an environment to where you can ensure you're aligned, you're working on the right priorities, you're connecting with the individual below the line. You are giving and receiving feedback. And you think about it, if you do it every week, then the longest you'll ever go misaligned is a week. And people think, oh, that's too simple to do that. I need something sophisticated. And so I think as people grow, they have to protect against falling into the sophistication bias. And the second is, I feel that, and I've experienced this being a senior leader in tech organizations in my career. It's what I call the two leadership kryptonites, and it's isolation and abstraction. Is that the further you grow and you go up in leadership in an organization, you can be tempted to become abstracted. It's like, well, what does that mean? What that means is that you start to make decisions based on a spreadsheet, and you don't really understand the people behind the spreadsheet that are impacted by that decision. And you can make some really, really bad decisions that really are hard to reverse for you as a leader and potentially for your organization. And then isolation is another one. You just become isolated from people, and you can start to make bad decisions. You can start to be unchecked. You can become unhealthy. So I see leaders, as they grow, they have these temptations, right, around too sophisticated or looking for sophisticated answers to problems they're trying to solve, or they become abstracted and isolated. And underneath them, they don't realize that their teams are not happy, and they're not engaged, or they're not clear, or they don't know what the priorities are, or they're not aligned. They don't feel connected to the mission. They don't know what their contribution is. And all of that added together means the business slows down. So the strategic stuff we want to do comes to a screeching halt, because you need the power of those people to be able to drive those results. And you just don't have it whenever you're abstracted, isolated, and you think things should be sophisticated.
It's funny, whenever I used to listen to Howard Stern, I remember one time, I don't know if it was when he was going to Sirius or something else, but he was talking about leaders, and, probably talking about all the terrible bosses he had when he was working in FM radio. And he said, I've never seen a place that had a ton of offices functioning well. He said the best places that have functioned well and the leaders that actually have had an impact are the ones that do have an open door policy, and it's an open space where they can be part of the team, or at least accessible to the team. And that has always stuck with me, because if I walk into places and you can see how segmented the different leadership teams are, and away from the workers who are doing the day-to-day basics of the business, you can see it. He's not wrong about that. And then the other thing that you just said that struck me, you were talking about the C-suite people just becoming a boss. And there is a huge difference between boss, which just sounds like somebody forcing you to do things and managing your life for you, and a leader who is somebody who's going to help you grow.
Right. Yeah, but definitely. It's funny because I'm from Atlanta originally, and I'm a big Atlanta Falcons fan. And the owner of the Atlanta Falcons is the founder of Home Depot. And I heard a story about the two founders of Home Depot, to where they used to be, what you're talking about, they used to be very isolated in a lot of meetings as executives, meeting just with each other. But they changed their strategy to where it's like, hey, as an executive, the expectation for you is to spend 80% of your time in the stores. And he said they talked about how that dramatically changed their strategies. Like, decision-making became easy because they were close to the people doing the work, and they knew the right decisions to make to help the people do the work. And so you look at great companies like Home Depot, or you look at even Chick-fil-A, companies like that, the leaders are always connected with the people who are closest to the people doing the work for customers. And they see how hard that is, and they see what problems they need to invest in and solve so they can make better decisions.
It's so amazing. It seems so simple, but there must be some barrier. There's some block there that people just can't get past whenever they're thinking of that. And so you were saying before that, again, when we talked before, that you are also a leadership entrepreneur. And so tell us about some of the things that you're doing and what your mission is on that front.
Yeah. So I believe, and I've said it, kind of alluded to this a couple of times, that equipped leaders, if you equip your leaders, you can accelerate your business results. And so my mission, passion, purpose is to really build generations of leaders who have what they need to show up every day and excel at what they do. And again, my experience is in running operational business units, right? It's like doing it in the real world, like with my teams over a number of years. And so I know what it's like to feel that you don't have what it takes. And I see the business impacts of that. And so the things that I'm working on are really, how can I help organizations and teams of people in a lot of variety of different ways to be established and equipped and ultimately elevated. And they really experience it. I think that in general, and this is from just my personal experience and experience of others, is that leadership development inside organizations in a lot of places is broken. And it doesn't end in the result that people want, right? So a lot of people think, let's just send our leaders to a 2-day conference and they're going to come back transformed and we're going to experience the elevation. It's like the conference was probably great, but when they come back and hit the real world again, they either don't apply what they learn or they do apply it and it doesn't work the way they expect the first time they do it. And so in a lot of places, leadership development is not working. And so my passion is to help companies build something that works, that really they experience the elevation and they experience it through engagement. They experience it through the results that the business delivers. There's a lot of different ways you can measure it. And so I'm working a lot on that, and looking at companies that are already in that space doing it, and are there opportunities to connect with them to help in other ways add value. Fortunately, in my career, I've been part of several startups, and so I've had the privilege to work and lead a lot of the different functions in an organization. And so just that empathy and understanding of what people are going through as they lead their teams, and how can we give them things that actually work, and actually allow them to feel better when they come in every day at work, that they have what it takes to do whatever it is that they're trying to do.
Have you ever been in a situation, because it's clear that you're an optimist, that you've gotten there and you just thought, I can't do anything here? Or do you always go in and even what might seem like the most hopeless case, do you still see a way to turn that around? Does that excite you more? What's better, when you go in and you see a team that is doing it really well and you're excited to be part of that and continue leading that, or when they need help?
Yeah, I enjoy doing both. I think the transformation piece, it's funny because I kind of find myself a lot of times doing the transformation work with teams. I like that. I like building things, whether it's teams or organizations or startups or people. And so both of those really energize me when it comes to stepping into opportunities. And they each have their unique challenges that you come with. But kind of to your question of being an optimist, and it's something that's a choice that I have to choose. It's not Pollyanna, stick your head in the sand. It's, I'm gonna confront the brutal facts of whatever our situation is. Together we'll do that, but we also have the hope that together we can overcome whatever it is that we're trying to overcome. And so, but I do think there are times where, like in my career, if I personally get in a situation where I feel like I can no longer influence change, that's a big thing for me. It's like there's a value misalignment to where my voice no longer carries the weight that it needs to drive the change that we need to drive. And so at that point, it's like I probably need to go somewhere else to drive value and change, which is okay, right? It's not always a bad thing. It could just be a misalignment with me and the team or organization. For other people, it's perfect for them. And so there are times where it's like, this is not a fit, and I can't do the things that I would need to do to be able to get the results that we want to get. And at that point, we just go do it somewhere else.
You posted a good article that you wrote the other day. I think you wrote it a while ago, but you shared it the other day about 5 times it's time to leave that job, which I think is kind of provocative, because people just don't, especially in a COVID time when you're terrified of keeping the job that you have. I think a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, how could I leave a job? But sometimes it is the right move to make.
It is. Yeah, it is. And I think, having some conviction and clarity on what's important to you is important, right? So for me, it's things like when I can't influence change, whenever there's a misalignment in the vision and the mission, things like that are important to me. other individuals may have other things that are their top 5 or top 3. And I think it's important to have clarity so that you can evaluate, right? Because I think the thing for me was and is, I want to, in my life, I want to minimize regret as much as possible, and it's like, I don't want to stay in a situation that for me personally is not challenging me and pushing me forward. And then a year from now, I'm going to be writing in my journal or asking myself, like, why am I still in the same spot now that I was a year ago? And without clarity on what criteria should I use to evaluate decisions that I make, we'll just stay stuck and we'll feel stuck. And it's just a terrible place to be whenever we feel stuck. And so a lot of people may feel that, and people have to use their wisdom, right? As far as, because there's a lot of things you can do. And this is what I've done just from my startup ventures is you're working on things in parallel, right? And so don't feel like you have to quit your job to do your next thing. There's things that you can do today to move yourself incrementally forward in what you want to do while you have your job. And I would say that's the best thing that you can do, is to try that. So whether it's starting a business, or if it's writing a book, if it's you want to speak and teach, or you want to volunteer, or whatever it is, there's opportunities to do that in places, so you can learn about yourself, and you can learn what it means to be successful there while you're still doing your day job. Some of us, like us, we get nudged out, right, which accelerates that. But for people who feel stuck, do something. Take the first step, drive action in the direction of whatever your desired destination is. And don't let the fear of the risk, stop you from taking action. The action may not be leave your job. It could be make a phone call, connect with someone on LinkedIn, or go volunteer, or write the first chapter in that book, or whatever that next action is. Do that. And then when you aggregate those over time, you've got something that ultimately you potentially could build, or a new direction that you want to go in.
So even if people feel stuck where they are, and they might be in a situation that they don't have a supportive leader, they don't feel like they're making an impact, you're telling them they're not stuck. There is a way. You can always take these tiny steps, just take it one at a time, and be able to make a difference that cumulatively will get them to a better situation.
Yeah, I think it's the clarity, right? It's the clarity. People, they need clarity on the alignment, right? Of, okay, what is my purpose? What are the things that energize me and bring me to life versus the things that drain me? What is the inventory of stuff I have at my disposal through experience, skills, talents, whatever it is? What are those things? And so getting clarity in that will then help me align the actions I take today to get me incrementally closer to that. Because I love, there's a guy that I know in Atlanta who he would always say, we all end up somewhere. We just all don't end up somewhere on purpose. And I want to end up somewhere on purpose, right? Versus drifting to a destination that I regret in 10 years. But that takes intentionality. It takes clarity. It takes asking yourself some tough questions and spending time really thinking about this. And then at the end of the day, it comes down to take the next best step, whatever that is, drive some action.
Where did this intense passion for leadership and purpose start? Is this something that you had from the time you were young? Were you doing this in your preschool room, or did this start after you were in your first job after college?
I don't know. That's a great question. I think that it's part of. I think there's definitely part of just design, right, of who I am, and I'm a big fan of. There's a personality assessment called the Enneagram. I do a lot of team building stuff around the Enneagram. And so that's helped me understand some design components. But then I do think that in college, I had examples of mentors, and they modeled for me what mentorship, what leadership, what life on life, what developing people, what that looks like, but not just what it looks like, what it does as far as results. And it's just something that it's always been a passion since then. I think it was kind of part of its nurture, and part of it was, I guess the nature part of it, of design. But it's always been something that with my teams, regardless of what we were doing, if it was leading engineers or leading products or leading implementations or customer management or operations, it was always a priority for me, was to how do I intentionally invest in the next generation of leaders. And that's, I think, from a legacy perspective, the thing for me is like, if I leave something, it's the legacy of the leaders that are left behind, right? And seeing them grow and be promoted and take on more responsibility, be successful. That's the win to me. And it's so much more important than any result that we delivered, or project or customer we got live, or whatever that may look like.
How do you handle work-life balance? Because I think sometimes people misinterpret success in their career as never going to happen unless they spend 80 hours or 70 hours doing it.
Well, I may not be the best person to ask. But, I mean, just because my personality type is very action oriented, and I have to be intentional to slow the hurry and to do things that slow my soul down, right? And because I will, like, left unchecked, and it's like a strength out of control. A lot of times what makes us great, like our superpowers, are also our kryptonites when they're out of control. And so the good part of this is that I can get things done and get things done fast. The bad part is I can always be on or feel the pressure to do that. And so for me, it probably would look different for you or in other people, is that it gets back to intentionality. And I think probably the most important skill to develop as a person, and it could be a leader, and a leader is not necessarily a position, but someone who wants to grow their influence, is the emotional intelligence side. It's the self-awareness, understanding my tendencies that I have and the results that those tendencies create. And then knowing that I can adapt my behavior based on those tendencies to get a different result. So I have to constantly remind myself that, because unchecked, I could stay on my computer for 12 hours, right? But it's like, okay, I need checks in my life. I need to understand myself as well to a level to where I know I need to put these really safeguards in place that will allow me to make sure I'm not like driving myself crazy or burning myself out. And so I think each of us have to figure out like what that rhythm looks like for us. But I would say it's not going to happen on accident. Nothing good necessarily happens on accident. It's got to be intentional. You have to really make a plan for it.
Is that your biggest challenge as a leader, to try to slow yourself down from that hurry? Or do you have something else that's like the most challenging when you're dealing with the team?
Yeah, I think,
or yourself?
I think definitely have to think about my tendency to move really fast, just because not everybody is wired the same way that I am. And so that manifests itself in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, I think that's one that I have to really understand, that not everybody views the world the same way that I do. And I need to invest time to understand how you view the world, and then change my behavior. And whenever I change my behavior, I'm going to engage you in a way that brings the best out in you. And so I have to tell myself that consciously to do those things. And a lot of it comes through through self-awareness and emotional intelligence, that aspect. But yeah, I think that I can move really, really fast, and not everybody, I need people around me who slow me down, because a lot of times the best idea and the best results we need to slow down to get to. Sometimes we need to move really fast. And so it's really that balance. And I think too, it's making the decision, and I've learned this through my career, is that a lot of times who I do stuff with is more important than what I do. And so putting the right people around me that is the right mix for me. Like I have a group of people that it's like I would take them anywhere that I went, right? Because I love working with them, but they also balance me out, and they bring strengths and superpowers to the table that I don't have, that can allow me to be better because of their superpowers. And so being intentional to put people around me as much as possible that can be that for me.
Well, thank you so much for being on. I loved this conversation. It's so important that people understand what does and doesn't work as a leader. And I will post your link to your LinkedIn on here, and then also that article when you were talking about the 5 times that it's time to consider quitting your job. So yeah, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciated it.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Bye-bye.